Hello and welcome to Lecture 2E. We're going to be dealing with describing the development of creative thought and moving toward what is creative thinking. So all people have the capability to be creative in some area. We understand that from Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligence. And with that being said, the provided conditions have to be right, and they have acquired the needed knowledge and skills that to be creative. They have to be there. So there's all kinds of modes of creativity. We understand that. There's drama, there's mind, there's music, movement, dance, thought, and language. So play, for an example, is an excellent opportunity for creative expression to happen. And a young child building with blocks relies on his past experiences or her past experiences in transforming pieces of wood into a train or into a castle. So putting on an oversized coat will help a 4-year-old become a business executive or a pilot or a nurse or whatever they choose to be. So young children are very creative, and but we have to allow them, we have to give them the opportunity to be this. So many believe that creative thinking is abstract and it's reserved for adult authors or artists or scientists, but that's not true. Young children can and they should engage in creative thinking. And creative thinking is a skill that helps children solve problems in their daily lives, and it prepares them to solve social, economic, political, and even environmental problems as they learn to create or have a creative thought process to get themselves out of danger, out of situations, or to even develop new ways to solve problems. So just what is creative thinking and how does it develop? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. But let's talk about two things. De Bono in 1970 identified that there are two types of thinking. There's vertical and there's lateral. So vertical thinking involves learning more about something or arriving at an accepted convergent answer. For example, when Miss Bell asked her preschoolers, "When do we eat breakfast?" little Sarah answers, "In the morning." But if the object is to find unusual, divergent, or creative solutions for problems, then we have to rely on what we call lateral thinking. Lateral thinking is a way of using one's mind that leads to a creative thinking or to a product. For example, Katie is playing alone in the sandbox and nobody wants to play with Katie, so she decides to pick up 2 sticks and put them in the sand. And she begins to talk to them like they're her friends, they're her pretend playmates. This is an example of lateral thinking, lateral, not vertical. And we want the children to have more and more opportunities to play and think in their lateral thinking process than we do in their vertical thinking. Let's talk about the brain for a minute. We understand that the brain is made up of the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. In our left hemisphere, this is where the logic, mathematical skills, and all those types of things happen over here in the left brain. Over here in the right brain, we have all kinds of creativity that happens over here because we have body awareness, we have creative abilities, we have spatial orientation, recognition of faces. Emotions happen a lot of times in the right hemisphere. But research tells us that when we cross over our midriff, which is an imaginary cross, and children play and they move forward and backwards while they're in their process, that they're moving from left hemisphere to right hemisphere, from right hemisphere to left hemisphere. The neurons are connecting, which means they're going like this, and they're connecting and hitting, and when that happens, that is a connection between those hemispheres. And it's imperative that children have these experiences because it capitalizes on functioning both sides of the brain. And although most schools are set up to emphasize convergent thinking or left brain functions, Gardner reminds us of the importance of what he calls divergent thinking, which deals with the right side of the brain. He says that we need to make sure those connections are moving back and forth. So according to Edwards, 1999, the two hemispheres work together in a number of ways. Sometimes they cooperate and divide the task with each having contributing attributes or abilities in doing what's best. But then sometimes one hemisphere dominates the other hemisphere, and that's where you're going to see the mathematical left hemisphere being more controlling than the musical part of a person. But that doesn't mean that we can't work on both sides of the brain. This is really, really, really important. The human brain is continually growing and adapting to its environment. A child's intelligence is not determined at birth. It fluctuates throughout a child's life, depending on the stimulation of the child's surroundings and the chemical reactions happening in the body. Teachers see changes that take place in children daily. These changes are unique for each child. Teachers have the responsibility to notice and to accept the changes and then adjust their curriculum accordingly, according to Rushton 2011. So when we begin to talk about whole brain and whole brain learning, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about using the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere and connecting them together. So what's going to be happening in your assignment 2F? This is why this is so important. You have been given a graphic organizer for creating a web for the work of art. So at the center of the web might be a print or a photograph of a work. And radiating out from the center might be categories such as works of similar types, such as sculptures or animals or different artists. In this way, children use literacy and art together. So in this activity, you're going to use this graphic organizer and integrate them into the curriculum, giving this chart. So what I've done to the left, I've given you like it says, the toddler theme is caring for animals. So I want you to think about a toddler who is 12 months to 24 months, or actually 36 months. And I want you to think of a way that you can use their communication, their literacy, their language, their arts and technology. How can you teach them about caring for animals? Now, I've given you some examples down at the bottom, so don't make this harder than it is. It's really simple. What I'm trying to get you to do is connect art with communication, and connect art with science, and connect art with social studies on these different age groups, okay? So don't make it harder than it is. Think about what is creative thinking and how does it develop. And so I'm going to take this and I'm going to integrate art with communication for a toddler and come up with an activity. And then I'm going to take art and science for a toddler and come up with an activity and put it in that box. And then art with social studies for a toddler, put it in that box. And then I'm going to go to a preschooler, which is a 3 and a 4-year-old. And I'm going to do the same thing across. And then I'm going to think about a 5-year-old or a kindergarten kid and do the same thing across. And then a school age kid, and let's just say a 1st or 2nd grader. Okay? So don't make this hard. It's assignment 2F, and it gets you to thinking about the left brain and the right brain and how we can connect those. Okay? This is creativity and the brain, and this is an exercise that gets you from thinking from vertical thinking to getting the child to think laterally, okay? We want them to begin to develop their lateral thinking skills. Have a good time doing this activity. This activity is actually worth 25 points, and you'll upload it into assignment 2F.